For number 18 ranked BYU Gymnastics, it's all about a numbers game. The Cougars defeated number 10 Denver, putting up the program's best score in 13 years. But that wasn't the only 10 on the night.
A 10? A 10 from Shannon Evans on floor.
Tonight, BYU looks to keep things rolling as they take on number 13 Boise State. It's the Broncos and Cougars next on BYU TV.
The February frenzy on campus at Brigham Young University does include snow. In fact, a mild winter has turned into a very snowy scene outside the Smith Fieldhouse. Indoors, we have a top 20 showdown of NCAA women's gymnastics alongside Mikkel Merkley. I'm Spencer Linton. Great to have you with us wherever and however you are all dialed in on BYU TV. We knew that Boise State would be very good. In fact, we watched Denver and Boise State now in back-to-back weeks. But a new competitor has emerged in the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference, that of 18th ranked BYU. What do you think about what the Cougars have done thus far?
Oh my goodness, the Cougars are doing amazing this season. They've really proved themselves. They just outdo themselves every single week. And I'm excited to see more of that tonight.
Well, specifically, we're going to focus on a couple of athletes that will certainly wow you tonight, beginning with Courtney McGregor of Boise State. And just moments ago, Mikkel, I said to you, she's the real deal, and she has the numbers to back it up.
She really is. This former Olympian was the MRGC Gymnast of the Week this week. She is coming off a huge meet against Utah State with a 39.5 all-around and 9 9s on both vault and bars.
And for the BYU Cougars, they'll look to counter with Shannon Hortman-Evans. And you heard in the open, she put up a perfect 10, at least according to one judge last week.
Yes, perfect 10 from one judge, 9-9 for another judge. Huge routine. We expect to see something big, not only on floor, but in the all-around from Shannon tonight.
And for more on Shannon Hortman-Evans, the sensational sophomore, we go to the third member of our broadcast team tonight, Lauren McLean. Lauren?
Spencer, not only did Shannon have a career high on the floor, but she had a career high in the all-around, which was BYU's highest score for the all-around of the season. Head coach Gard Young told me that Shannon is special because she never gives up and she's never satisfied. She knows that the details make all the difference. And that being said, she wants to do a lot better on her dismount on the bars and also her landing on the vault in hopes of scoring even higher in tonight's meet. Spencer.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll get into the dynamics of why this meet might look a little bit different for BYU specifically compared to what we have seen in the recent past. But first, we introduce you to the head coaches of Boise State, co-head coaches, and they are fantastic. Tina Bird in her 11th season with the Broncos, coming back as a co-head coach of the year in the MRGC for 2017, along with Neil Resnick. These two have taken Boise State Gymnastics to new levels. And Mikkel, you just mentioned BYU one-upping themselves from week to week. It feels like Boise State is one-upping their program from year to year.
For sure. Since Neil and Coach Bird have joined Boise State, they have just been getting better and better. They are continually national qualifiers, which is a big deal. Only the top 12 teams in the country are allowed to compete at nationals.
You just saw Gard Young, the head coach at BYU, and 3 years ago, he looked him in the eye and he said, I've got a challenge in front of me, but I'm excited about it. And it's going to take a little while and some patience and a lot of frustration, but I want to get my program to that elite level. And he's taken a huge step this year as we look at the Cougars and Abby Miner start things off on the vault.
Huge opening for Abby Miner. Really big Yurchenko fold. We will see that vault done a lot tonight. Big start value at a 9.95. That means that is the highest she can score. The Cougars' weak spot on vault this year has been their landings. Their vaults are so huge that they kind of bounce out of them a little bit, and we can see there she actually controlled it quite well. Hoping that's the case for all the vaulters tonight.
I've asked a couple of her teammates how they would explain Abby Miner, and the synonym is powerhouse.
Yeah, she really is.
Here is Sarah Means to open up the uneven bars for the Boise State Broncos.
Good gymnastics. What happens on bars is we are looking for handstands. Handstands are the key. Handstands, big sticks on the landings. We will also be looking for 2 release moves, 1 high bar to high bar. They release the high bar and catch the high bar again, and 1 transitional release move, typically done high bar to low bar. Great opening set for Boise. Our first girl we want them to hit to set the precedent for the night so the scores can just build and build and build throughout the evening. Great effort on that stick, just a little low on the landing, forcing her to take that step forward. But again, great start for Boise.
5'2" junior out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Sarah Means, awaiting her score from the judges. We'll transition back over to the vault and BYU with Haley Pitu. One of a handful of key freshmen for Guard Young's team.
Huge vault. There is that landing we have been waiting for all season. We're going to see her get on the vault with really nice tight arms and stay really, really tight in the air. She doesn't rush it down. A gymnast, typically, they get a little bit antsy and you'll see a pike down where they break in their hips, and she just waited for the landing perfectly.
Well, you set that one up. And she delivers a stick landing for BYU.
It was the Sports Nation karma from Coach Natalie going on this week.
I see you're learning, Mikkel. Back to the uneven bars in Boise State with Sandra Coyantes. Sarah Means puts up a 9-8, and you said it, very solid start for Boise State. It's so huge for a team's confidence to watch competitor number 1 in event number 1 play, or perform rather, really solid.
It really is. In gymnastics, you can put up 6 girls, but only 5 routines count. So it's kind of like having a freebie. You do not want to use that freebie at the very beginning. Huge dismount. These girls, watching their warm-ups, they are very good at sticking. Huge routine in general.
Coyantes, the redshirt senior and an all-around gymnast. The great routine and an emphatic landing. She put the exclamation point with the stick right here.
And you can see she leans forward just a little bit and she's like, no way am I taking a step today, and really holds on to it. She did a great job.
Representing Lima, Peru. Coyantes, we'll call her name often tonight. And now number 3 on the vault for BYU, Angel Zong.
These landings are so much better tonight. We should be looking at a vault high score for this season this evening. Again, gets into that vault really fast. We're looking at height and distance from the vault from these girls, and they are doing a phenomenal job. You see she pops up well above the vault. The judges are looking for amplitude on vault, and she delivers.
Zong follows up a 9-8 from Abby Miner and a 9-7-2-5 by Haley Pitu. With that effort, we'll await her score and now head back over to competitor number 3 on the uneven bars for the Broncos, and Stockwell.
You see these Bronco girls hopping off the springboard to get to the high bar. The girls are only allowed to jump onto the low bar once. So we will see it here. She'll stand on the low bar. It's the only time she's allowed to do that. So to avoid a deduction, they mount from the springboard. Beautiful lines in this routine. Looking for a big dismount here. Beautiful forward. Tiny step on the dismount. Only going to be a tiny deduction.
So early in this rotation, you'll see a lot of experience for Boise State. A couple of juniors, a couple of seniors, but the back end are some emerging freshmen.
Yeah, sometimes what you'll do is ideally we want the scores to build on each other, but sometimes what you'll do is you'll put your more experienced girls at the beginning so that you know they're going to hit and take pressure off the end girls. The last thing you want to do is put someone with not as much experience at the beginning of a lineup, have them fall, and then have all that pressure on your remaining lineup.
Shannon Evans, the 4th to compete for BYU on the vault. We showed you what she did on the floor last week, putting up a 9.95, a career best. And BYU's all-around sophomore star on her way.
Beautiful vault from Shannon. Shannon does what is called a Yurchenko half in difficult because she cannot see the ground until she's already landed. Anytime you see a gymnast doing a front move, it's typically called a blind landing. And you'll see, yeah, her feet hit and then she sees the ground. So you're just basing it off of where you feel like you're in the air. And she handles it so beautifully.
Both teams off to solid starts in their respective events. BYU on the vault, Boise State on the uneven bars. The Cougars just had Shannon Hortman-Evans go as the number 4 vaulter. And now here is your first look in competition tonight from the former Olympian Courtney McGregor.
We see Courtney start on the low bar. She's going to go toe hand release. That will actually count as her major release. Typically what happens, our major releases are done high bar to high bar. However, the Shaposhnikova type moves also count as major releases. Getting ready for the dismount, huge full in.
Wow.
Great landing. Boise is killing it on bars.
Courtney McGregor, the sophomore, and another transplant from outside of the United States, representing Christchurch, New Zealand.
Here's that major release we talked about, immediately into the shoot over. What we'll be looking for on bars is you need to earn bonus points in gymnastics. So we'll be looking for either really hard tricks or tricks that are stuck together like that. So a release in combination with another release is bonus.
The amplitude and gymnastics involved in that release move, outstanding from McGregor. Just a hint of a hop. We'll see how much the judges take off for that, but expect a big score from McGregor. Jill Van Mierlo, number 5 on the vault for BYU.
Another great vault from Jill. The girls are really controlling it. Jill looked like she tried a smidge too hard to stick, and what happened is she just under-rotated slightly, causing her to take that tiniest of a step. She just questioned herself a little bit. It was a great vault and is going to receive a great score.
Yeah, BYU definitely flirting with a season best team score on vault at this point. Right now it is a 49.050, which happened to be a week ago when you were here, Mikkel, with Jerem Jordan calling the meet against Denver. We'll see if the Cougars can best that 49.050 on the vault. Meanwhile, Shani Remy for Boise State, who are collectively off to a fantastic start on the uneven bars.
Fantastic. Shani does a great job here. Just her form is amazing. She's always squeezing her legs so tight. We'll see that on all of her events tonight. Huge set. Her Jaeger she does in the pike position, which makes it an E. Gymnastic skills are labeled A through E, A being the hardest, E being the most difficult. We see there how she has her legs together on it. Higher chance of her kicking the bar, therefore more difficulty.
Shani Remy, one more look at her dismount.
Nice and open the whole time in the air. What we'll see with less experienced gymnasts is they'll go really arched and then really piked as they come around. Shani does a great job just staying in that nice stretched position the entire time.
Avery Bennett is the anchor leg, if you will, for the vault and BYU.
Avery does a little bit different of a vault. She is BYU's only 10.0 start value vault. It's very difficult to receive a 10.0 start value on the vault. She does a full onto the vault and then a back tuck off.
Bennett, the freshman from Gilbert, Arizona.
Yeah, tons of amplitude from Bennett. That's a very difficult vault to receive, to get amplitude on. Coming off that twist and then flipping out of it, it's a hard thing, which is why it has that 10.0 start value. And she really shows it off how it's meant to be done.
Now this meet for BYU, and we alluded to this a little bit earlier, is kind of an experiment meet.
It is a little bit of an experiment meet. Guard has been calling it audition week. What's happened is, in order to qualify for regionals and nationals, you can only count so many of your home meet scores, and BYU has very high home meet scores. They don't need any more. So they're using this as a chance for the girls that have not had a chance to show their routines in competition setting tonight, to show how they compete and to try and show that they deserve a spot in BYU's lineup.
Emily Molenhoff showing why she deserves a spot in that uneven bars lineup for Boise State.
Huge to Tkachev right there. Again, beautiful form right into the handstands. Handstands are killer on bars because you have to be within 10 degrees. If you cast over, it is a fault. It's at least half a point deduction. If you're short, then that's a deduction as well. So it's really hard to try and balance that. Jordan is one of those wild cards that we'll be seeing tonight. She's doing a layout half, and she's just working on taking her time.
A little bit shallow on that landing.
A little bit shallow. Again, on these half vaults, it is a blind landing. You can't tell where the floor is until you've already hit the floor. She looked beautiful in the air, very tight body position.
Just that's an exhibition routine, so
yes. So it doesn't count. It's just to gain exposure to a meet setting. So while she'll be disappointed in her performance, it will not affect the team score at all.
Danbury, one of 10 freshmen for BYU on the roster this year out of Killeen, Texas. A correction, it was Gabrielle Bauza who was most recent to compete for Boise State on the uneven bars. That was her first attempt on bars this season, and now we're looking at Emily Molenhaupt, who is the exhibition routine for the Broncos.
Emily did a great job again with those connections, the Jaeger immediately to the shoot over. We're going to see the blind full into what should have been the dismount. Typically, if we see the blind full at the end of a routine, we'll be expecting a double back. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make that.
All right, we're going to take a break here after one rotation between BYU and Boise State, a top 20 showdown of NCAA women's gymnastics. Come back with your scores after this.
BYU Gymnastics on BYU TV is brought to you by Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Brady Industries, honestly better. And by AAA. Learn more at AAA.com.
Back in the Smith
Welcome back to the Smith Fieldhouse. It is a night for gymnastics where the BYU Cougars are taking on the Boise State Broncos. Tonight is the pink meet for the BYU Cougars where they're honoring breast cancer survivors. They honored a few of the people before the meet started. They also had a corner where they were doing makeovers for little girls. They were doing their hair and nails. Also, BYU revealed their brand new pink uniform, which they were super excited about, also designed by Natalie Brookman, who is the assistant coach. Guard Young said tonight is very important for him because his grandma just passed away and she was a breast cancer survivor. So a very important night for a lot of people. Spencer?
Fantastic stuff, Lauren, and certainly we send our prayers and thoughts with all those that are affected by cancer. I know that personally hits close to home for me, so a great effort for BYU to put together the uniform and these breast cancer awareness nights and cancer awareness nights. You know, just, I don't know, the color pink has taken on a whole new meaning. That takes us to our keys to the meet thus far, brought to you by Tim Daly Ford of Spanish Fork. Tim Daly Auto Group, serving Utah since 1968. Mikhail, color me shocked. But the keys, once again, are exactly the same.
I know. Gymnastics has no defense. So Boise State is not going to come push one of our BYU girls off the bar tonight. So really, we're always looking for hits, meaning all skills are hit, the girl stays on the event, all elements are made, and sticks, just like we talked about on vault and bars, that we are looking for the feet to land and not move at all.
Our scorebox sponsor tonight, Brady Industries, a provider of commercial cleaning supplies and equipment, and we are certainly keeping our eyes on what happens from rotation to rotation. BYU just missed besting their team high vault score for the season. They come in with a 49 flat. Boise State, not surprisingly, very solid on the uneven bars with a 49.1. So a 10th lead for the Broncos after one rotation.
For those of you watching at home, a 49 is a very good score. A decent score is a 48, and typically if we see a 47, some major faults had happened. So whenever you see a team score of 49 or better, you know that they had a great rotation.
All right, fans, rotation.
For those of you just joining us, what we'll be looking for on bars tonight are handstands, major release and minor release, meaning a release done high bar to high bar and a release where they let go of the high bar and catch the low bar. And again, like we talked about, those stuck dismounts. It's about a 1/10 each step that they take, and that adds up really fast. You have each girl take one small step, and that's the equivalent of having to count a fall.
BYU on the power of Abby Minor's career high 9.8 on vault, and Angel Zong tying her career 9.85 with that 49. Now the Broncos hit the vault.
Such a fun opening vault. We typically don't see these front vaults done very often. When she competes that, we'll be looking for her to do a good sit-up off the vault. It's very hard because you don't have that round-off entry that we've been seeing all night to provide a lot of energy into it.
All right, the buzzer is sounded. We'll make things official here in rotation number 2. Guard Young giving final instructions to his team before they hit the uneven bars. BYU will open up with Jill Van Mierlo. Angel Zong will follow. Boise State on vault will begin with Tatum Bruden, and Shani Remy will follow. Of note, Boise State in head-to-head meets against BYU, the Broncos have won 19 consecutive.
That's quite a record.
They have set the precedent as probably the power, certainly one of the powers in the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference, along with Denver. And right back there again as the 13th ranked team in the country. As you look at Tatum Bruden start things off on vault for the 13th ranked Broncos.
Really big opening vault. We see that half, again, blind landing. It looks like she has questioned herself a little bit there. She had the landing. It was a great vault. She just stepped back, tried to save it. Bigger step. Each step is at least 1/10 deduction depending on how large the step is. In gymnastics, there are 2 types of deductions. There's the flat deduction, meaning if you do this, then it's a 1/10 off. And then there's the more subjective deductions, where it can be up to a 1/10 or up to 2/10 off.
Jill Van Mierlo, the first to compete on the uneven bars for BYU.
Nice blind change into the Jaeger there. A little bit close on that catch, it looks like. Jill brings a lot of experience to the bar lineup. She has been in and out of this since her freshman year, and her teammates can really count on her to come up and hit a strong set. Huge dismount. The Cougars will all be doing big dismounts tonight. The assistant coaches brag about how guard came in and he just has a real talent for teaching E-level dismounts, which is what the Cougars need to compete at the national level like they are.
Typically, BYU's best events on any given night are the uneven bars and certainly the floor.
The floor, as the season has gone on, though, have you noticed they're all kind of evening out? It used to be floor, we'd expect big things, but as the season has gone on, I expect big things on all 4 events now.
BYU showing that consistency from week to week that they haven't done so consistently in the past, and that's why they're back in the top 20. As you look at Shani Remy following up the 9.7 from the opening vault of Tatum Bruden.
Huge vault, huge vault. We see she gets on, her arms are totally straight on that vault, which is what we're looking for, so they can just catapult off it, and then she knows exactly where that landing is at and is able to just really hold on to it.
Now for the Cougars on the bar.
Well-deserved congratulations for Remy. Now Angel Zong following the 9.725 from Van Mierlo.
Angel is new to bar lineup this week. Guard is resting Natasha, and he's giving Angel a chance to really show how she does on bars in meets. Again, Guard is trying to see who he is going to travel to these next several meets coming up. Guard only travels 15 girls every time, so these guys are trying to really make an impression and audition, as he said, for these lineup spots. And what a great audition that was. Big landings, big release. Look at that amplitude. She is so high above the bar. Hits great handstands. It's kind of a fun release called the pack flip. We don't see quite as many of those as we do the shoot over. And Angel does a a great job. We talked about it with Boise. Their girls stay very laid out in the air on those double layouts, and Angel does the exact same thing.
Angel Zong having a night thus far. Ties her career high on vault with a 9.85, and just put together that bars routine. We'll await the judges' tally on that and go back to Rachel Obman, who follows up the 9.825 from Remy.
A little too much power there we see on the landing. The girls have this very stiff mat underneath, a little softer mat, and sometimes if you're a little too stiff on your landing, it acts like a springboard. Her vault was great. Again, takes it way, way up in the air. Just that hop to the step on the landing will be a small deduction. It's very difficult adjusting from gym to gym. What happens in your practice setting is the bars are anchored down to the floors. Everything's on concrete. When you get to a meet setting, it's typically on a basketball court, so you're putting springy stuff on another springy surface. And sometimes it's a little harder to adjust.
Angel Zong ties a career high on her bars routine with a 9.775. You saw hanging on right there for BYU is Abby Bowden.
Abby's coming off a big week last week, and you can see why she's scoring so well. Big release-to-release move that is bonus. She does it with great form, and then that huge dismount at the end. Here's her Jaeger immediately into her shoot over. Very difficult to connect release moves like that, because if the first move is off, then you have little bobbles like the one we saw on the low bar there. That's not very typical of Abby there.
Now, how much of a deduction?
It's going to be minimal. It's one of those silly things. She's going to feel so silly when she hops off, because she probably just wasn't even thinking. She was probably getting ready for her dismount. And that's just such a minor move, something she's done since she was a little girl. It probably just didn't cross her mind.
Taking a look at Ann Stockwell for Boise State now. Of note on the vault, Shani Remy tied her season high with a 9.825. That currently is the big score for the Broncos.
Huge 1.5. A 1.5 is a 10-0 start value. We talked about earlier how hard that is to get in college gymnastics. There's really only a few vaults that start out of a 10. So 1.5 twist in the air to the blind landing. Step on the dismount on the landing is going to be, that's going to be probably a 2/10 deduction. Depending on how large the step is, depends on how much of a deduction the judge is going to give.
Keep an eye on that. The pace of this meet is really flying.
It is going by so fast.
Abby Bowden with a 9.75. Haley Pitu next to compete for BYU.
Beautiful handstand from Haley into the blind change to Jaeger. Huge Jaeger on the replay. We'll see how high she is above the bar. That kind of amplitude is so impressive, because it's all depending on your tap swing. How hard she kicks depends on how high the release move goes. But again, the more aggressive you go, the harder it is to control. Huge set, big dismount, big landing. We'll be seeing a big score. Watch how high this goes. Her whole body is just flying above that bar. Getting ready for the dismount here. Big full in, sees the landing. Tiny, tiny, almost like a shift, not even a hop, really. The Cougars have really fought for their landings this meet and all season. That's something that guard always pushes, is do not give up 10s on landings. And they have just worked so hard at that. Here for Courtney's up on vault. Another big vault from the Boise's. 1.5, a little short that time. Again, 1.5, huge, huge vault. We're seeing these 10-0 vaults. That is why they're ranked so high nationally, is that they have this high difficulty level. It looked like she was just a tiny bit soggy on the vault. We don't want to see any shoulder angle. We don't want to see a break from the wrists all the way to the hips. We want to be nice and open. What we saw there on Courtney is just a little break in the shoulders, which caused it to not have quite as much rotation as she's used to.
See, when you can use soggy on the vault, Those are the reasons that we bring you in to do this.
Very technical terms here tonight.
Haley Pizzu with the 9.85. He called for a big score, and she got it for BYU. Here is Brittany Haas, who is the bars specialist for the Cougars.
Brittany is gorgeous. I can never find deductions on Brittany. You can see she's just squeezing everything so tightly, all the way to her pointed toes. I think she's pointing her toes so hard that her heels don't even quite touch. Brittany's is my favorite to watch out of every gymnast. It is so laid out. She sticks it 99.9% of the time. Winding up here, huge. You can see her body doesn't move at all in the air, and she is just so confident on that landing every time.
Brittany Haas for BYU, electrifying the crowd here in the Smith Fieldhouse with that routine on the uneven bars. And it's easy to root for a girl like that who has gone through several significant season-ending injuries.
Yes, she is the bar specialist after 3 ACL surgeries. At some point, you have to give your body a break and just do bars. I know she would love to contribute more. The coaches would love to have her contribute more, but you've got to use your body after you're 21, apparently. You've got to make it last longer than that. Huge vault.
Mary Frances Burr on the vault for Boise State, you just saw.
There was that front half we talked about earlier. We saw her warming it up. She did a great job with it. Again, that is a 10-0 start value, so we'll be expecting a little bit higher of a score for that vault.
Haas with a 9.875. Very solid and something we've come to expect from her. Now for Shannon Evans.
Shannon's routine has been really fun to watch this year. Guard has changed it a little bit. He took out anything that could be a deduction. He switched out her blind full for a toe-on full. Anything just to minimize the deductions that the judges are able to take. Another huge double A into a great landing. Big routines tonight.
Shannon Evans delivering in the clutch as the anchor performer. On the uneven bars, Guard Young.
Guard Young is one of the best parts of the meet. His reactions are so fun to watch.
Very genuine and authentic. And he has brought a new level of competition to this BYU Gymnastics program. Joking around that I've got girls knocking down my door for an opportunity to compete. I mean, the competition level within the team is at an all-time high since he's been here.
Such a great job creating so much depth within the team.
A couple of exhibition routines happening now for Boise State and BYU. In the meantime, we'll go to Lauren McLean, who has Angel Zong, who is feeling good, I'm sure, after 2 solid routines.
Angel, you tied your career high on the vault and then on the bars. What was going through your mind when you nailed that dismount?
This week I've been struggling a little bit actually in practice, but I just realized that my body knows how to do each skill, and I need my mind to let my body do its thing, because it already knows how to do great gymnastics, and it worked out great for me.
Yes, you're doing phenomenal, and also your team is as well. What's it like for you to be able to see your team do so well and hit those dismounts on the bars?
It's an amazing feeling. It's amazing to be part of such a great team, and to be able to be in a lineup for this team just makes me feel really proud of myself and my teammates, because we've accomplished so much this season.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
Spencer?
Thank you, Lauren. Angel Zong, huge smile, huge personality, and a very bright, energetic young lady, as you just heard. She's confident. We'll take another break. BYU, through 2 rotations, looking to erase that 10th deficit to Boise State after the first rotation. We'll have the scores for you right after this.
BYU Gymnastics on BYU TV is brought to you by Emergency Essentials, 30 years of helping people prepare. The BYU Store, the official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Deseret First Credit Union, sharing your values. And by DexterLaw.com, for help when you need it most.
That little line judge.
Top 20 NCAA Gymnastics live on BYU TV. It is 13th ranked Boise State on the road in the Smith Fieldhouse in Provo, Utah to take on the 18th ranked BYU Cougars. The Broncos have beaten BYU head-to-head in 19 straight meets. But look at this, after 2 rotations, BYU with a 10.25 point lead, 98.15 after the Cougars score a 49.15 on bars, led by that young lady's career high, a 9.9 from Shannon Evans on the uneven bars. Lauren McLean is with Guard Young, the BYU head coach.
Coach, really solid scores on vault and bars, including a 9.9 from Shannon Evans. What was it like for you when you saw her nail that landing?
Yeah, we had some great bars today. I thought Brittany was the 9.9 too, so, come on, judges. We're doing some great gymnastics and we have great performances.
What do you want to see headed to the beam from your team?
We got to calm down. We have a lot of explosive energy on bars, so time to calm down, relax, and, these girls know how to hit beam.
All right, thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Hey, thanks.
Spencer.
Guard Young, all-world gymnast when he was at BYU, found great success coaching with Oklahoma on the men's side. Of course, his Olympic run with Team USA, silver medalist, and now the head coach at BYU. And you better believe he's going to lobby while he can.
That is something.
For better scores.
Yes, he defends his team. I've just been so impressed with Guard as how he sees his girls and how he defends them. And I was sitting there with him one day when he had to make a lineup change, and the amount of thought and just compassion he had, knowing he was going to take a girl out. You can tell he really cares about these girls, not as gymnastics robots, but as human beings, which is so great in a coach.
You obviously want each and every one of your gymnasts to excel and succeed and find happiness and consistency. It's just a lot to manage.
It is, and I know when I was at BYU, I felt your coaches are kind of your parents, your coaches and your trainers. It's the first time you've been away from home. You're trying to figure out how to be an adult. These coaches have a lot on their plates as far as all the aspects of their athletes that they are managing.
He brought up an interesting point in that we've got a lot of explosive energy tonight. And particularly going from vault to uneven bars now to the always finicky and delicate balance beam. BYU, until this year, would find themselves with strong scores after 2 rotations, particularly in home meets, but when they would go to the beam, 2 falls, sometimes 3. We've seen 4. But that has not been the case this year for BYU, which is why you're seeing the consistent 196-plus scores.
Yes, beam was definitely a wild card in the past, but they have just done great this year. Instead of getting nervous watching, wondering how the girls are going to do, we're wondering how well they're all going to stick. They've done a great job. They've done some unusual practices, which I love. They have a platform beam in their practice facility, which is so high in the air. It makes it feel like you're 100 feet in the air, and they will drag it around to they'll drag it in here, they'll drag it over to the Marriott Center so that the girls can get experience competing in different environments, and it seems to have made a big difference.
Just 1 week ago, you saw it on BYU TV. BYU put up their highest score in 13 years with a 196.625. A tri-meet win over then 10th ranked Denver and the always capable Southern Utah gymnastics squad. 49.375 as a team for BYU on the floor, their highest event score of the season. And Shannon Evans with a career high as an all-around gymnast, 39.425. She's on pace to compete with that tonight as well. Highlighted by that 9.95 she scored on the floor last week.
We were so excited. What happens in gymnastics is there's actually 2 judges, and you average the score of the 2. We saw the 110-0. We started cheering. Guard comes over and says, no, they've got to get 10s from both judges, and the other judge is giving her a 9.9.
Hannah Miller opening things up for BYU on the balance beam. And an early fall, which automatically makes things interesting for the rest of her teammates, because now they're hoping that this will be the only low score they have, and you drop the low score in each rotation.
Yes, in gymnastics, in college gymnastics, 6 girls compete, only 5 scores count. So what you typically do is your first girl is one of your most consistent. So that is definitely an uncharacteristic fall from Hannah, and it puts a little bit of pressure on the remaining girls. They know that they don't have that freebie anymore. We used it up at the beginning, and now they all need to hit, or they will have to count a fall. Your job when you fall is to finish up your routine as perfectly as possible to minimize any remaining deductions, and Hannah did a great job with that, because we don't know, maybe someone else will fall. You'll see here she's just slightly off to her left side, and just a little too much to say, but the beam is only 4 inches wide, so there's just such a small there's such a small margin of error that is acceptable, or you'll be off the beam.
That is Hannah Miller's first fall of the season.
Yeah, they've all been, if we look at the statistics, there have been very few falls in general on beam. They have just been hitting routine after routine after routine. Very consistent team this season.
Miller typically brings in around a 9.75 on beam. That'll be much lower this time around because of the fall. But again, BYU not exactly painted into a corner just yet. They have 5 more competitors that will compete, and they can eliminate that low score from Miller if they have 5 hit performances. Now to the floor and Boise State.
Saw a huge opening pass there. Again, in gymnastics, skills are ranked easiest to difficult, most difficult, A to E, E being the hardest, A being the easiest. That front double full is an E level mount.
And Stockwell, one of the seniors for Boise State.
What we will be looking for on floor are passes that tumble both forward and backwards. We'll be looking for a tumbling pass with 2 separate flips in it. And we'll also be looking for leaps and jumps. A lot of times we get really excited about the tumbling passes. Oh my goodness, look how big that tumbling pass was. But in truth, the leaps and jumps are worth just as much. Getting ready for that final pass. Front handspring Rudy, or a 1.5 twist. Great landings on all of her passes. Great opening set for Boise State.
And Stockwell, one of the senior co-captains for Boise State. This program has won 3 consecutive MRGC championships.
There we see that front double full, huge opening pass. E level tumbling passes are very difficult to come by. Just like on vault, the 10-0 start value is hard to find. E level tumbling passes are just so hard. We don't see a lot of them. We'll be seeing them tonight, however, because both of these teams are just so good. Natasha is such a beautiful competitor. I love watching her dance. She has such a calm confidence about her. She doesn't even look phased to be up there. Again, the beam is only 4 inches wide. It's 4 feet off the ground.
Natasha was given the night off on the uneven bars, so this is the first time we were calling her name tonight in competition.
We're seeing there her series. What we will often see tonight for a series pass is a flick lay, a back handspring layout. Natasha is very tricky. She can do that front kick over to the back handspring, and if for some reason she doesn't connect it, she can actually walk up and do a flick lay also. She has a lot of depth to her gymnastic skills. Beautiful leap pass. That ring jump is very hard to do. You'll see her head goes all the way back. She loses sight of the beam, making that a very hard skill to do, again, on only 4 inches.
Now the dismount.
Huge, huge routine. She is exactly who we needed up to follow a fall. Her consistency is so high, and her just that calm confidence that we talked about is incredible. Here's that series pass we talked about. She adds the jump in front of it to up the level of difficulty. Dismount this gainer full off the side of the beam to a beautiful landing. Again, we don't want to see the feet move at all once the girl lands following a beam dismount.
For the floor.
Big confidence boost for BYU on the balance beam. And we'll go back to the floor. And Stockwell with a 9.85. Here is Courtney McGregor. The Broncos, as a team, scored a 39.475 on the floor last week. That paced them to their season-high team score overall of 196.875.
They're a great team on floor. We're going to be seeing a lot of big tumbling passes, and we're going to be seeing a lot of solid landings. We talked on beam about how we don't want to see the feet move at all. On floor, the rules are a little bit different. You can take one controlled step backward, it's called a lunge, out of each of your passes with no deduction. We see there a beautiful back 1.5 into a front flip. What we're looking at there is that is her 2-flip pass. Again, the judges are looking for a lot of variety from these girls. If you don't have variety in both your dance and in both your tumbling passes, that is a deduction. So we'll be looking for the forward passes, the back passes, the 2-flip pass, and then as far as dance go, they want to see dance that is really high, standing very tall. They want to see mid-level dance, and they want to see dance that is all the way down on the floor. In addition to choreographing the levels, we also want to see each of the girls hit each corner of the floor. If you do not go to each corner at least once, that is a deduction. Big landings again from Courtney. That's what we should expect to see tonight from both teams. They're both just so strong on floor. They don't leave a lot of room for the judges to take deductions.
Courtney McGregor following up the 9.85. With
really,
some big passes.
Really big double back there. We're seeing a lot of amplitude. There's that back 1.5 front layout. What we are looking for on the front layout is that the shoulders stay up and the body rotates around. We'll see it here again on her Rudy. Shoulders are high. They are at shoulder height when she's standing, which is exactly what the judges will be looking for in the flip.
McGregor, the reigning Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference Gymnast of the Week. She took over the throne of that weekly honor from her teammate, Shani Remy, who had won the previous 5. I mean,
strong team, Boise State is.
Latasha Marsh with a 9.825. That'll make guard Young feel better. Shannon Evans now competing on the balance beam. Hannah Miller with the 9.075 after that significant fall. BYU trying to hang on here and avoid taking a major deduction in rotation number 3.
Shannon has just really come into her own on beam. In the past, she's been a little bit rushy. Coach Natalie has really worked with her on just breathing through beam. Again, it's very hard. You go from vault, which is very, very explosive, to bars, which is also a more powerful event, to beam, where the key is just pacing yourself and taking your time. It's so easy to rush or to go too hard for your skills. Another huge set for BYU. They are really having a great comeback.
Marsh and Evans do their job for the Cougars.
We'll see here that front kickover to the jump. Kickover jump is, again, it's bonus. That's what we're looking for, a lot of good connections from these girls into the very good gainer full off the side.
Evans being congratulated by guard Young.
For the Boise State Broncos on the floor, Abby
McGregor with a 9.8 to join Stockwell at 9.85. And they'll watch Abby Webb compete now as the third to go for the Broncos in the floor rotation.
There's a lot of pressure on these girls. What happens is you make these routines hundreds of times in practice, and then you get one chance in a meet to come and compete and show what you can do. It's not like other sports where you know, you strike out, you get another try on the next inning. You miss a free throw, you'll get another try. These guys get one shot, and the pressure is so high for them. Fun little leap pass right there, the switch side. That will count as her 180-degree leap. We need to see leaps from each of the girls where either a leap or a jump where they hit at least 180 degrees on the split, so totally flat. Shoot, just a little wild coming out of that first front move. She got her feet in front of her. She did a great job trying to throw that front full out of it, but the feet were just too far in front, causing her to under-rotate the second one. Just like BYU is in a little bit of a predicament on beam, Boise State now does have one fall that they do not want to have to count. Prepping for that final pass.
She stepped on the line, so that'll be a 10th deduction automatically.
Yes, unfortunately what we see here is you see those lines on the mat. The mat is totally fine to use, but if you step on the lines, the gymnasts have to stay in the blue section, or it is just a flat 1/10 deduction. We see here she just can't quite get the feet under her out of that first front layout, causing her to land short on the other one. And then we see here she's going so hard, kind of bounces. It's a shame. She's barely on that line, but on the line is the exact same as way out of bounds. It doesn't matter. It's 1/10 either way.
Next on the
Neil Resnick giving some instruction to Abby Webb after that floor routine. And BYU now looks to the freshman Abby Bowden, who is into the spotlight and perhaps feeling that added measure of pressure.
Abby's another very calm, confidence type gymnast. That's a huge series that she does. A lot of gymnasts will see them do that kick over in the tuck position, meaning their legs are a little bit bent. Abby does it in the pike position, which ups the level of difficulty, making it just a huge series pass. Beautiful switch leap. I do not know if they're going to give her the connection. What we are looking for on those leap passes is there cannot be any kind of stop at all. So when we see that they have little tiny bobbles and stuff, they're going to do their best to hide it. But depending on how large of a pause the judge feels like it is, depends on if they get their connection value or not. Really big dismount, that round off into the 1.5, blind landing. Does a great job hanging on. Tiny hop is all that she took. Really good routine. Very aggressive. These girls have to go so aggressive on those round offs and then complete a 1.5 twist. Like, most people can't even do that on the floor. These guys are just doing it off a beam.
Abby Bowden of BYU. And while we wait to see if the judges will give her that connection. No significant fall for Bowden, which makes 3 consecutive competitors for BYU on beam that have survived, if you will, since the uncharacteristic fall for Hannah Miller.
Yes, they're doing a really great job. It's really easy to get in your head, and then what happens is the girls start competing not to fall instead of competing to win, and there's such a difference there.
Shani Remy was the 2017 MRGC all-around champion. Reminder that our scorebox sponsor is Brady Industries, a provider of commercial cleaning supplies and equipment. Here goes Remy on pass number 1.
Great double full, like we talked about at the beginning. That is an E-level pass, very difficult. Very experienced gymnast. Like we talked about earlier, she has been the MRGC Gymnast of the Week over and over and over again. And as we see her perform tonight, we can see why she has received that award. Huge double pike. The amplitude on that was just huge. The judges are looking for not only the positioning, but they want to see that these girls can get very high in the air. And to do that as a second pass instead of a first pass is even more impressive. Slowing the gymnast dance down here. She's going to be preparing for her final pass. The routines are only a minute and a half long, but they are a very tiring minute and a half. You can see her catching her breath, getting ready. You're only allowed to stand in the corner for about one breath. It's not a lot of time to catch your breath. So what happens is we usually see the gymnast do a little bit of slower dance leading into that final pass.
Remy off the floor. An understandable smile. She's been so solid for Boise State from the moment she arrived on campus.
She has. She's just been a really big contributor every single meet. They can always depend on her to just do her job. She gets up and she hits regardless of what anyone else on her team has done, which is huge in gymnastics. It's interesting coming from club. A lot of times we see these freshmen that come in and they do surprisingly well because in club you compete for yourself. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. And then you come to college and it suddenly does matter. So a lot of times what happens is there's a little bit of a panic there, but Shannon's just done great from day one.
All right, BYU in a situation where they will have to count a lower score. Abby Bowden with a 9.45. Assuming that Van Mierlo and Zong can deliver clean routines for the Cougars. So the 9.45 will understandably hurt the third rotation score for BYU. We're not going to see a season high score from BYU most likely because of that, but certainly capable of still winning this head-to-head meet and ending 19 consecutive head-to-head meet losses against really the power of the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference, Boise State.
Yes, what happened there is that she did that leap pass. It didn't count as a connection. The gymnasts are required to have so many things in their routine. They have to have an acro skill. They have to have so many B-level skills. They have to have a leap pass. And what happens is if you don't get your connection values or you don't hit your top elements, it's very difficult to get those high scores that the girls will be looking for.
Jill Van Mierlo in a good position here.
Huge dismount. Jill is so good at that dismount. She always knows exactly where she's at in the air, allowing her to stick it so confidently. Beautiful switch leap into the straddle quarter. And that's the kind of leap pass that we're talking about. We have to see the leaps connected immediately. Big dismount here. Solid. What we're looking at on these landings on the dismounts, you see her feet are a little bit far apart. As long as they are able to click their heels together before they salute without moving the balls of their feet, then there's no deduction. They just have to be able to be close enough that they can click their heels together.
Remy with a 9.875. We'll see what Coyantes and Francis Burr can do to help alleviate the Abby Webb score of 8.825.
Sandra has a huge opening first pass. Beautiful full in. We're going to see full twist into a double back.
Outstanding.
Very difficult to be doing a double twist, and to twist the other way in it is very challenging. Again, we only see that with the top level gymnasts. Sandra's so fun. Her teammates call her grandma. She's 23, which is one of Boise State's oldest gymnasts ever. In gymnastics, that is old, and gymnastics takes wear and tear on your body. So to see her doing so well on all the events is just phenomenal. Beautiful two-flip pass there. You can see the amplitude that she has on those front moves. Again, shoulder height is what we are looking for with the forward passes. We can see that it's called a 4-incher in the corner of the floor. It is not a deduction to use that. It just softens the landing a little bit.
Final pass.
Really good routine. All of her passes were done with minor, if any, deductions. Again, this full in is huge. She makes it look so easy. And you see how she works so hard to make sure that she stays off that white line to minimize any deductions that she might receive. Final pass where you should be tired and barely able to do anything. She makes a huge double pike. Great landing. What the judges are looking for on these landings is a lot of control, and we also want to see that the chest is up when the feet hit. So if the chest is down low, that is a deduction.
Angel Zong, the sophomore from Langley, Canada. Really good first 2 rotations.
You know, there's a lot of pressure on Angel right now. This is one of her first times in being lineup. We talked about earlier how this meet is an audition for traveling, being on the travel team. And this is Angel's audition. And also she needs to hit her set so the Cougars don't have to count a fall. So maybe a little bit of pressure that she wasn't planning on tonight, but she's definitely up for the challenge. Does a great job holding on to that flick lay. It would have been so easy for her to step off, but she held on to it beautifully. Coach Natalie talks about how Angel just works so hard in the gym and is just such a great example to all of her teammates. Beam used to be kind of hard for Angel. She is crazy smart. She's so smart. And so Beam, she could let her brain, Beam is slow enough, she could kind of let her brain do whatever it wanted. But the gymnasts have been working a lot with Dr. Manning this year. And he was a sports psychologist, and it has just made a world of difference for this team.
A little bit of a sidestep for Angel Zong on the dismount. So not BYU's best team performance on beam this season by any means, but they did minimize the fall early on from Hannah Miller to a degree.
They did, and when we see that dismount, you can see her feet were actually quite crooked on the round off, and Angel did such a great job of pulling it back so that she didn't miss that mat. It would have been very easy to go extremely crooked on that, and she was able to save it a little bit.
Here's Mary Frances Burr as you look at Sandra Coyantes, 9-9. That ties her season high. We told you the Broncos were explosive on the floor, and aside from Abby Webb's uncharacteristic routine, they're putting up a big score.
They've shown what they're able to do. And again, in gymnastics, we want to see the scores build on each other. So we just saw 9-9. So Mary has been set up to receive a very high score tonight if she just minimizes her deductions. Triple pass, we don't see that very often. Again, you have to stay in bounds. You can't touch that white. So a lot of times we'll just see the 2 flips. Instead, she chooses to do the 3 for bonus purposes. Beautiful leap pass, very high in the air. The floor is made of springs. It's springs with wood on top of it, and then a layer of foam, and then the carpet. Some gymnasts really know how to use those springs, and Mary is one of them.
Keep in mind the Broncos scored a 39.475 as a team on floor last week, which is an enormous score. And I don't think they are pacing for much lower than that, assuming that Frances Burr can hit this last pass.
Big Rudy, a little bit of a hop on that landing. But overall, that was really the only deduction I saw in her set. It was a great routine. The Broncos did a great job coming back from that fall and still having 5 great scores to count. Here's that triple front pass that we see, the front full, front lay, front tuck.
For BYU on the beam, Cheyenne Hill.
Mary Frances Burr and pass number 2.
Big double tuck.
And the Broncos await what should be a pretty solid score on the floor as they throw out the 8.875. And a reminder to join us on BYU TV tomorrow night. 6th-ranked BYU men's volleyball in this building will host the Stanford Cardinal. Match starts at 10 Eastern, 8 Mountain. You can watch that on BYU TV. Jerem Jordan, Steve Vail, and Lauren McLean on the call. They'll clean up the gymnastics and get ready for high-level NCAA men's volleyball. We'll take a break. 3 rotations in the books. Updated scores as we go to the 4th and final event. BYU to the floor where they have been really good, and Boise State to the always interesting beam. Top 20 gymnastics continue on BYU TV after this.
BYU Gymnastics on BYU TV is brought to you by Tim Daliato Group, serving Utah since 1968. Brady Industries, honestly better. And by AAA. Learn more at AAA.com.
Coach, you mentioned that you wanted your girls to perform as well as they do in practice in tonight's meet. How do you feel like they're doing so far?
Well, I think we've really had about 50% of that and maybe 50% of not their best routines.
What do you want to see when they head to the beam right now?
Like I said before the meet started, we want to see what their best routine in practice looks like out there in the meet.
All right, thank you, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Spencer?
Thanks, Lauren. Neil Resnick, the head coach, co-head coach of Boise State, 13th ranked program in the country. BYU at number 18, and going into the 4th and final rotation, Boise State has jumped back in front of BYU. A score of 147.225 to BYU's 146.85, so almost 4 full tenths of a lead for Boise State. Yet the Broncos have to deal with the pressure of the beam, and BYU goes to their best event as a team, which is the floor.
Beam is the Broncos' lowest ranked event, but I mean, that's all very in context. They're still very good at beam.
That takes us to our mid-match essentials, brought to you by Emergency Essentials for over 30 years, helping people prepare at beprepared.com. Emergency Essentials. All right, the 2 buzzwords for every gymnastics meet that you'll watch on BYU TV: hits and sticks. How would you rate both teams in those categories, Mikkel?
You know, 3rd rotation was a little bit of a struggle on the hits. Both teams did have a fall happen, and BYU did have a little bit of a fault as well. Sticks are going so well, though. I've been so impressed with the landings tonight from both teams. They really know where they're at in the air, and then they can see their landings. What we want to see, we'll look for it a lot on floor today. The girls will literally see the floor while they're still in the air, and then they can just put their feet where it needs to be. There's 2 types of gymnasts. There's the seeing gymnast and the feeling gymnast. And BYU has worked really hard to move from feeling where you're at in the air to actually seeing the floor and putting your feet down. And it has just made a world of difference for them.
All right, let's go to our history buff, Lauren McLean, who has our BYU Store Sports History Showcase. Educate the people, Lauren.
All right, Spencer, the BYU Store, the official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. BYU had their highest team score in 13 years in the last meet, so in 2005. What's incredible about BYU is they just keep improving. They broke the season high a few weeks ago against Air Force, and then obviously again last week. And Gard Young told me that what they're doing well right now is they're doing very high quality and technical gymnastics. And he also said they have a lot of depth and a lot of talent, so they just continue to push each other to be better. Spencer.
Thank you, Lauren. And tonight, if you're just joining us, a bit of a new approach for BYU and Gard Young. He's giving gymnasts that don't typically get into certain rotations some opportunities here. And you think, well, why would you do that in a big meet against Boise State? It's because it's all about the grand scheme and the wide scope. And right now, BYU, with their solid performances overall at home, they have enough solid scores, they feel like, for a quality RQS, a regional qualifying score. And so this was an opportunity for Gard Young to change up the rotation and the lineups, if you will, and take a good look at some tryouts, if you will, for some of his gymnasts tonight in a high-level competition.
Yeah, guard is very untraditional. He doesn't do things the way a lot of other coaches do, but as we can see, it's paying off. The Cougars are doing great this season. Again, you can only count so many home meets, and the Cougars have a ton of great home meets. So he's saying, why not see how the girls compete? And then if they do well, let's add them to our away traveling schedule. The Cougars only travel 15 of their girls. In postseason, that's all you're allowed to compete. So he says, why would we practice with more than that when this whole season is to prepare for postseason? So assuming the girls do well tonight, they may be seeing themselves in that traveling lineup.
We are setting up for some drama here in the fourth and final rotation. BYU will need a 49.15 as a team in this floor routine to hit that 196 mark. And that definitely is within reach, given what we have seen BYU do, particularly last week against Denver, where they were outstanding on the floor. And as you mentioned, Mikkel, Boise State, their weakest event as a team is on the balance beam.
On every other event, vault they're ranked 11th in the nation, floor they're in the 9th, balance beam is 18th, so still very, very good. Being 18th is nothing to laugh at, but it is their weaker event, and they are coming after a little bit of a weaker floor set than they probably had hoped for. I love the backs on these Leos.
Yeah, and you may be wondering why the pink and why the display of this. Well, BYU is honoring and doing their part to bring awareness to cancer research and to honor those families and people that are dealing with it, whether directly or a loved one around them. And they feel strongly about this. In fact, Brigham Young University Athletics as a whole has put together a huge collaborative effort, whether it's women's basketball or soccer, men's basketball, now gymnastics, to make sure that they have these opportunities to get in their say in the fight against cancer.
BYU used to have a great head trainer named Gabe Merrill, who unfortunately did pass from breast cancer, and she just touched so many lives, so many of these athletes' lives. I know that when I was at BYU, she was like a second mom to me, and so BYU's done a great job in honoring her and the influence that she's had here by letting the athletes honor her in their meets and their competitions. That was a huge dismount. When we see the replay, you're going to see, I believe, only 1 foot was on the beam. It would have been so easy to mess that up. And she did a great dismount out of it. Here's her side aerial. A little bit of a bobble. Again, the beam's only 4 inches wide. Just if you get off even a little tiny bit, it's easy to fall off.
Sandra Coyantes put up a 9.9 in her last rotation on the floor and brings the heat with that dismount. Of note, Abby Bowden for BYU had her score upped just a bit to a 9.5. It was at a 9.45. So that half point, every little bit counts and will help BYU. The Cougars score a 48.75 as a team on the balance beam, and are now down just 3 1/4 tenths instead of almost a full 4 rather.
So what happens is, if a coach feels like they didn't get a fair score, they can submit an appeal, and the judges will look at it and they can reevaluate. So that's why a lot of times you'll hear us talk about the unofficial scores. The scores are not official until the end of the beat because they can technically be changed.
On the floor right now for BYU is Brianna Pearson.
We'll be watching Brianna's leaps and jumps. She's just been working them so hard this season, just really upping her level of difficulty and her form. She's just been tightening everything up. Coach Brogan talks about just what a hard worker Pearson is. What is most impressive about BYU's tumbling is, again, their landings. When we are looking at landings on floor, we want to see that the shoulders are up by the time the feet hit. If the shoulders are down, they will get an amplitude deduction. And BYU has just really limited those this year. You can see just straight up and down, and it's great. Very excited on that salute. She's very proud. That's a big open.
Over 1,100 in the Smithfield House. Tonight's attendance, 1,125. And enjoying every bit of that performance from Brianna Pearson for BYU to open up the floor routine for the Cougars. BYU is going to need a big-time score here to try and snap this losing streak to Boise State head-to-head. They've lost 19 in a row against the Broncos in a dual meet format. Sandra Coyantes with a 9.75 to open up the scoring on beam for Boise State. And here is Courtney McGregor.
Beautiful opening little kick pass. That kick just shows off her great flexibility. It's not really worth anything, but it's so nice to see. Beautiful front tuck. You don't see those quite as often. It's hard because, again, we want to see the judges. We want to see the judges are looking for the gymnasts to land very upright. We don't want the legs bent when they land.
Really good from McGregor, who is out of Christchurch, New Zealand. She's one of 2 former Olympians on this Boise State squad who competed in the Rio 2016 Summer Olympics, along with Isabella Amato, who represented Panama.
I think a lot of people from Utah are really cheering on Courtney. Courtney's coach is actually from America, from here in Utah. So a lot of us have seen her kind of grow up over the years, even though she is from New Zealand. Beautiful dance pass. Ready to finish up her set.
Courtney McGregor, our impact performer that we showed you at the beginning of the meet, hoping to best the 9.75 that the Boise State Broncos opened up with, courtesy of Coyantes. A few wobbles, so we'll see what the judges come up with.
Yeah, there's that punch front that we talked about. Again, a lot of times what we're going to see now is they'll do what is called a kick over front. Great save there on that switch leap. Unfortunately, if she was looking for a connection bonus, as we saw with BYU earlier, if you don't do the connection bonus, it really affects your score.
There's the dismount from McGregor. And a look at Jill Van Mierlo. Brianna Pearson with a 9.85.
Strong start. And Jill is always a crowd favorite. She just loves performing and tumbling, so it works out pretty great.
Football fans will notice the music in the background from Fox NFL Sunday. Did her foot barely stay in?
She literally just didn't let her heel touch. When we watch the replay, you'll see her foot should have gone out, and she just stayed on toe. I have no idea how she knew the line was right there. That's the kind of experience that these Cougars are looking for tonight from their seniors. I still don't really know how she did that. That was incredible awareness. You can see why the Cougars are ranked so highly on floor, though. Fun little move to the belly called a Shushanova. It's really smart for these girls to do. They're called prone landings when they land on their bellies like that. Basically, you get a deduction anytime you do any kind of little hop or anything. So you are allowed to do a prone landing out of 1 dance pass and 1 tumbling pass, and some teams really take advantage of that to minimize stepping deductions.
Final pass for Van Mierlo, and it's a good one. We'll go back and take a look at just how close the heel was right here.
Watch her. Her foot is literally, and she just, oh my goodness. I cannot believe she did that.
Hold on. And she did in pass number 1.
Tiny bit low on that landing. Tiny bit of a deduction, but overall, she really nailed that routine.
So a 9.85 for Pearson from BYU to open up the floor. Van Mierlo awaits her score. McGregor in with a 9.7. No major gaffes for Boise State on the balance beam. And you mentioned it, Mikhail. They're ranked 18th in the country on beam.
That was a super, super cool pass.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever seen that at the college level. It's very risky because...
Go ahead and mark that down. We'll come back to that.
Yes, we'll come on back. Cute little dance move. Again, we're looking for dance that's really high up, standing, mid-level dance, and then dance on the beam. There used to be a requirement that your torso had to touch the beam, either your torso or your head, but they did recently get rid of that requirement. Judges are still looking for the high and low dance moves.
This is big for Abby Webb, who had a forgettable floor performance. Boise State ultimately was not really affected by it, but in terms of individual confidence, she looks very much unfazed right now.
Yeah, she's doing a great job. It is hard to come back from an off performance because you feel like you need to prove yourself. She's doing such a good job staying in the moment and just worrying about her job at hand.
Dismount from Webb. What a routine.
Great layout front full. She did a great job staying in that nice straight body position. No pike to the arch. Judges will be looking at that. You guys, this is so cool. She has to catch herself on one foot and then lower herself down slowly enough that she doesn't shatter her tailbone on that tiny, tiny beam. Beautiful flick lay. A little bit of a bobble there. Again, tiny deductions here from Boise State on beam. Just a little bit of some balance checks that are unfortunate because they are a deduction. I did have someone ask me, is it a deduction if they just stay on the beam? Yes, anytime they look wobbly, they are going to get a deduction.
Van Mierlo with a 9.8. And these scores, not shocking from BYU. They've been there all year, if not a little bit higher. And as you go in this rotation, the scores for BYU, as they planned out by the coaches, are hopefully getting better.
Yes, and with Abby, we should see a huge score. Her tumbling pass is huge, this double A.
Wow.
Gigantic. That is such a gigantic tumbling pass that she only needs 2 tumbling passes total. A lot of times we see on floor 3 tumbling passes. Abby starts off with such a strong pass. She can kind of do more of a fun little trick in the middle called a dive roll. And what the coaches have noticed is there's just fewer things for the judges to deduct on, so she has just been getting amazing scores.
BYU fans have an affinity for the knee brace, whether it's quarterback Taysom Hill, who is leaping over defenders with a knee brace, to now Abby Miner, who's putting up career best scores tonight in vault with a 9.85, and now hoping for something similar here on the floor.
Getting ready for that final tumbling pass here. Very strong set. Huge, huge routine.
Wow, Abby Miner have a night.
We should expect a very high score following that set. On this double A, we're going to see it actually rises as it goes through the trick. Usually on double backs, the first flip is at the apex and then it goes down. This, the first flip, is neutral and then it rises as it goes on those double A's. Beautiful ending there. That's such a good feeling when you hit your set and you know you did your job for your team. What's your guess on the score, Spence?
I'm going to say 9.875 from Abby Miner. Abby Webb in with a 9.675, which honestly is a little bit lower than I thought it would be.
You know, it's just that wobble. I feel like the judges, they've been very fair. They've been judging both teams fair. They've been judging them both the same, but I do feel like on those subjective deductions, they have been a little bit harsh. As we heard from Guard earlier, he felt like he would like to see a little bit higher scores tonight.
Well, and he submitted an appeal for Abby Bowden on the balance beam.
Yes.
And got an extra half point because of it.
Yes, again, gymnastics is so subjective. There are a couple deductions that are a flat deduction. You step out of bounds, it's 1/10. You fall off the beam, that's 5/10. But most of the deductions are subjective based on how big they feel like your fault was. And tonight, I just feel like they're taking more maximum deductions.
Sarah Means on the beam for Boise State.
Again, a little bit of a balance check, a little low on that front kickover landing. Big dismount though, and we see how she clicks the heels together. That's what the judges are looking for on these dismounts. You can land with your feet a little bit apart as long as the heels can click together at the end. Really good flick lay. Very just clean lines. This turn is beautiful. You see she kicks out and just has such control over it. The turn is kind of the Achilles heel of most gymnasts. It's an easy skill that you've done since you were a child. You kind of forget about it and get the best of you sometimes.
Yeah, there you pointed out, get those heels together. There's no place like home position with the heels together, right?
Next up on the floor.
We got jokes tonight.
It's a stretch. It's a stretch, Mikkel. Okay, calm down. Abby Miner, 9.825, so I was
You're very close.
a half point.
You didn't take into account the harsh judging tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm not a judge. There's Shannon Evans, who scored a 9.95 with this routine 1 week ago. Got a perfect 10 from one judge, a 9.9 from the other. Not surprisingly, a career best.
Shannon is so fun to watch on floor. She just has fun out there. You can see it in her facial expressions and her big, she's so dynamic in everything she does. She's a dynamic tumbler and a dynamic performer, and the crowd just loves her. You can see she just looks so confident out there. Big tumbling pass, huge double tuck.
Whoa!
Doesn't even need the step. Again, on floor, you are allowed to take one step. It's called a lunge. If you can do your tumbling pass without it, that is just incredible.
You say, well, she looks like she's having fun. She is having fun. You'll ask her about it.
This is such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You work your whole life as a gymnast from the time you are a tiny, tiny girl to be a college gymnast, and you only have 4 years. So if you can just go out and enjoy it, that's the best feeling ever.
Final pass for Shannon Evans.
Huge. Again, the shoulders are so upright on her takeoffs and her landings. We should expect a huge score for Shannon tonight.
This is the fourth quarter of sorts, if you will, for gymnastics, and with BYU on their home floor, it ends on the floor in their strongest event, and you can see why. I mean, look how high Shannon Evans is on that first pass.
Shannon's another gymnast that came in. She would just try to fill where she was at, and Coach Brogan has really worked with her on being able to see the floor before she lands, and it has just made a world of difference in her tumbling passes.
I know you can take a step, but when you stick a pass like that, that has to be a little bit of an exclamation point to the judges to say, I was really good right there.
Yes.
On the beam for the Broncos, Shani Remy.
Now here is the defending MRGC all-around gymnast of 2017, champion Shani Remy on the balance beam. Sarah Means with a very good score, 9.8.
Beautiful opening flick lay.
About as good as you can get right there.
There really was no deduction to be had on it. There's that full turn that we'll be looking for from each of the gymnasts. You can hear the music playing in the background. Gymnastics is kind of funny. Beam is an event that has choreographed dance to no music.
A little moonwalk on the beam right there from Shani.
Beautiful lead pass. That's a very difficult lead pass. We'll be looking for the full split. If there's ever a split jump done on beam, we are looking for it to be 180 degrees, and she has just done a phenomenal job at that tonight.
She is pacing for a really big score right here. Dismount from Remy. You betcha.
Huge dismount, huge routine, no wobbles. This is exactly what the Broncos have been looking for this evening on beam. She just got up there, just like we talked about earlier, did her job, hit all of her skills. Such a fun mount. A lot of times we don't get to see those fun mounts because it's a risk. And in college gymnastics, you're just trying to eliminate as many risks as possible. So it's really fun getting to see that variation. Big
Remy
dismount here.
Wants to make it 20 consecutive head-to-head wins against BYU, and that's a performance that might just get it done.
Yes, huge, huge dismount. Huge routine in general.
Okay, Mikhail, you asked me to predict a score. I was generous by a half point with Abby Miner's floor routine. I said 9.875. She got a 9.825. Evans hits 9.875. But with that balance beam routine that you just saw from Remy, what would you score there?
Taking into the account the tricky judging tonight, I would say a 9.875.
Here is Kylie Greenleaf for BYU.
Big opening pass. Kylie's tumbling is kind of fun. She goes round off immediately into her double back. We don't see that a lot of times. You use the back handspring to straighten out your tumbling pass after the round off and give you a little more energy. She doesn't need it, so she doesn't use it. Getting ready for that second pass here. Front handspring, front layout, front full. Another landing with no lunge. These Cougars are killing it on floor tonight.
It's becoming a common statement.
That is what the landings are, what separate the good teams from the really great teams. It is just so easy to lose the tenths add up so fast when you're losing them on landings, and the Cougars have just worked so hard to get rid of those little deductions.
Final pass for Greenleaf.
That was a phenomenal routine as well.
No problems, and her teammates greet her ecstatically.
That's so fun when they run out, and you're just so excited. That's one of the best part about college gymnastics, is that your teammates are just as excited for you as you are when you hit. Big double back again, no back handspring, no deduction for that. And this Rudy here, chest is very high on the landing. That is something that the Cougars are just so good at, are their landings on floor. You see her with trainer Carolyn. The trainers become your family. Gymnasts tend to have some chronic injuries that they spend a lot of time in the training room for. And the trainers really, they become as important as your coaches.
The smiles for BYU and smiles for Shani Remy with a 9.925.
That was too harsh. That is a great score.
That ties her career high.
Huge routine.
And now it comes down to Gabriela Bauza of Boise State.
That was a solid flick leg. She looks so, she's making the beam right now look like it is 6 feet wide.
Bauza has only been on beam in competition twice this season, and you're looking at the second time. She scored a 9.25 with a fall in her first attempt. But she doesn't look like a gymnast that's been affected by this. She looks like a veteran right now.
She really does. What happens a lot of times in lineups is that the less experienced gymnasts you'll sometimes put at the end, so if they do fall, it doesn't affect the beginning lineups. But she is in a great position to score so high tonight because her teammates have set her up. She is following a 9.925, and this routine was done equally as well. We should be seeing a great score for that beam set.
Very well done from Gabby Bauza. Just no flinches right there. Just fluid gymnastics.
That is the difference in competing not to fall versus competing to win. And she was definitely competing to win tonight.
All right, Boise State, I should say, racing towards a very solid score. They're going to be well into the 196 mark. BYU also will eclipse 196, but will it be enough?
9.95.
And it's a 9.95 for Kylie Greenleaf.
That means one judge again gave her a 10.0.
a career high.
Or 2 9.5s.
Or 2 9.95s, right? We'll see. It is 2 9.95s. And here is Natasha Marsh, who is not
either way
often in this rotation on floor.
No, Natasha has worked her way in following BYU did lose one of their best floor competitors, and it was
Mackenzie
a big loss.
Douglas.
Yes, who has just been a phenomenal teammate, and Natasha stepped up, upgraded her floor passes, and really stepped into that spot and has been a great contributor since she's been in there. We had a coach that used to say, you are going to have your chance to compete, and it will all depend on if you're ready. In gymnastics, that's just how it is. Someone is going to get hurt. Are you going to be ready to take that spot? And Natasha was. I always just love watching Natasha's dance, whether it be on beam or whether it be on floor. She's just so graceful. Taking a little bit of a breath before this tumbling pass. Round off, back 1.5 front layout, huge landings. I just don't have much to say about BYU's floor. Like, they're hitting all of their stuff every single time.
Get 1,125 in attendance. Excited about what BYU has done on the floor. Is it enough to end the losing streak head-to-head against Boise State? I mean, they put together a really solid floor routine as a team, anchored by Natasha Marsh right there and Kylie Greenleaf's career high 9.95. But the Broncos might have just put together their best team score of the season on the balance beam.
Yes, those last two performances were really something for the books.
We'll take a break and come back with your final tally from an outstanding top 20 head-to-head gymnastics meet in Provo, Utah. Boise State and BYU coming down to the wire.
BYU Gymnastics on BYU TV is brought to you by Emergency Essentials, 30 years of helping people prepare. The BYU Store, the official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Deseret First Credit Union, sharing your values. And by DexterLaw.com for help when you need it most.
Welcome back to the Smith Fieldhouse in Provo, Utah. Top 20 gymnastics showdown between BYU and Boise State, the 18th ranked Cougars and 13th ranked Broncos. Of note, Natasha Marsh scored a 9.825 in that anchor leg of the floor routine for BYU. Stepping in for the powerful Mackenzie Douglas. We'll get to the final scores in just a bit, but not before our performance of the meet. Brought to you by Dexter Law. As passionate about shouldering people's burdens as it is about BYU, Dexter and Dexter helps you when you need it most. DexterLaw.com. Kylie Greenleaf with a 9.95 on floor. A week after Shannon Evans scored a 9.95 in the same rotation.
The girls are just killing it on floor. Kylie's got to be super proud of herself right now. She wanted a new floor routine this year. Coach Brogan said, no way, this one's looking so good. And the scores are definitely showing it.
Greenleaf will not soon forget this night or that performance. And she shouldn't. Archive that one. If the Greenleaf family is watching and listening, save that one to the DVR, put it in the keep column, and find a way to make it permanent.
The amount of girls that score a 9.95 is just, it's such a slim group of girls that's a difficult club to get into.
We are being handed the final scores for tonight's meet. And the BYU Cougars have ended the losing streak head-to-head against Boise State by a half point. 196.225 for the Cougars to a 196.175 for Boise State. So the Cougars don't put up a season-high score per se, but they celebrate, as they should, a victory against one of the premier gymnastics squads in the country.
And you know what? An amazing confidence builder for this team that every meet, they have just been able to hang with these highly ranked teams that before they couldn't. And their hard work and the work that Guard Young has put in has made them a team that is worth competing against.
BYU has now taken down head-to-head, at the time, 10th ranked California, 10th ranked Denver, and now 13th ranked Boise State, all on their home floor. The Smith Fieldhouse has something magical going for BYU Gymnastics right now. Our MVP of the meet tonight brought to you by AAA. What does your insurance do when it's not doing insurance? It should do more. Learn more at AAA.com. Shannon Hortman Evans. Overall score of 39.375, including a 9.9 on bars and a 9.875 on the floor. She is becoming a legitimate all-around threat conference-wide in the Mountain Rim.
I would say nationally. Nationally, Shannon is ranked and is doing very well.
BYU awaiting the individual and team meet awards and announcements. For the moment, we'll go to Lauren McLean, who has found a very happy Kylie Greenleaf.
She is happy, and she's still dancing right now. Kylie, you smashed your career high on the floor. What was going through your mind during your routine?
Our theme tonight was fight, and we were fighting for those that are fighting and have fought cancer. And I dedicated this meet to a really good friend that passed away recently, and I was fighting for her.
That is so neat. And your team as a whole edged Boise State, who was ranked just a little higher than you. What does that mean to be able to get the victory tonight?
I'm just so proud of my team. We've worked so hard this season, and we're believing in ourselves and just going out there and not worrying about the other team does and doing us.
And you guys have 2 away meets coming up. What do you want to see from your team in those?
I think we just need to continue doing what we're doing and go out and have fun, because that's what good gymnastics is having fun.
All right, thanks, Kylie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kylie Greenleaf, smile tells 1,000 words right there. And even better to get that little bit of background knowledge of her being able to perform for a friend who recently passed away due to cancer. BYU in the pink uniforms, beautiful uniforms tonight.
What an honor to be able to dedicate that routine to her friend.
A career high 9.95. It's been great to have you with us on BYU TV for this top 20 matchup. Up ahead for BYU on March 2nd is a dual meet at Utah State that will start at 7 Mountain Time in Logan, Utah. And for the Boise State Broncos, they're back home to host Sacramento State on the 2nd of March. A look at some of the images from tonight's BYU victory in the head-to-head dual meet. They snapped the streak. 20 in a row won't happen for Boise State as the Cougars storm back in the final rotation on floor. Final score 196.225 for BYU to a 196.175 for Boise State. A reminder to tune in tomorrow for men's volleyball in this building. 6th ranked BYU hosting Stanford in the Smith Fieldhouse. Coverage starts at 10 Eastern, 8 Mountain Time. Jerem, Jordan, Steve, Vale, Lauren McLean on the call. For McCall Merkley and our crew, I am Spencer Linton saying good night from Provo. It's another Cougar winner.